Greetings from the Alexandrina Council. Let's meet the driving force behind the Alexandrina community. Chief Executive Officer, Andrew MacDonald. Mayor, Keith Parks. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Peter Oliver. West Ward, Councillor Bill Coomans. Councillor Lou Nicholson. Councillor Michael Scott. North Ward, Councillor Craig Maidment. Councillor Sue Miller. Councillor Christy Thornton. South Ward, Councillor Margaret Gardner. Councillor Millie Livingston. And finally, Councillor Peter Oliver.
Good afternoon. Welcome to our council meeting of the 19th of May 2025. An audio recording of this meeting will be made available for minute-taking purposes and will last the length of the open meeting. The audio file will be available on the council website after the draft minutes have been circulated. I'd like to welcome our elected members. We have an apology from Councillor Oliver, and I'd also like to welcome our Chief Executive Officer, Andrew MacDonald, General Manager Community, Stacey Batson, General Manager Infrastructure, Alan Harvey, General Manager Corporate, Tash Hunt, and some of our other staff who are here as required. Would you all now please stand for the acknowledgement of country and the local government prayer. The Alexandrina Council and its communities acknowledge the Ngarrindjeri, the Paramount and Kaurna people as the traditional custodians of the lands and waters of our council district. Almighty God, we humbly beseech Thee to grant Thy blessing upon the works of this council. Guide us in our deliberations for the advancement and the true welfare of the people of this district. Thank you. My members, if a member has a conflict of interest, for the purposes of Part 4, Division 1, Subdivision 4 of the Local Government Act of 1999, in a matter which will be for the council at this meeting, they're asked to disclose their interest to the council, provide a full and accurate details of the relevant interest at the beginning of the meeting, and members are reminded they must deal with the conflict of interest in accordance with the relevant provisions of Subdivision 4 at the time the item arises for consideration. We have an advice from Councillor Miller regarding item 12.3, the Adelaide Hills Regional Waste Management Authority. Is there any others? Got anything? No. So item 2 is the confirmation of minutes. So 2.1 is the confirmation of our ordinary council meeting of the 22nd of April 2025. Any questions or discussion relating to those minutes? I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Okay. 2.2 is the special council meeting minutes on the 12th of May 2025. Recommendation that they be received as true and correct. Move Councillor Coomans. Second Councillor Gardner. Sorry, move Councillor Coomans, second Councillor Gardner. Is there any questions or discussion relating to those minutes? If not, I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. 2.3 is the Southern Communities Transport Scheme minutes of the 16th of April 2025. I recommend they be received and noted. So move that. Move Councillor Gardner. Seconder. Councillor Maidment. Is there any questions or discussion relating to those minutes? If not, I'll put that to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. 2.4 is the Ratalang, Basham Beach and Horseshoe Bay Advisory Committee minutes of the 8th of May. And there's a recommendation that they be received and noted. Is there a mover for that? Move Councillor Nicholson. Seconder, Councillor Scott. Any discussion or questions relating to those minutes? Councillor Maidment.
Yes, in reading minutes of the Ratalang, Basham Beach and Horseshoe Bay Advisory Committee on the 8th of the 5th, I did note that there are only 4 committee members there making some very serious decisions on expenditure. There were 5 staff members in attendance. The meeting time was scheduled at 10, didn't start till 10:22 and went till 12:41, which means there's a lot of time taken up by our staff at that particular meeting. Do that later on in the evening, we are looking at appointing some more people to that committee, which will be very good going forward.
Any further discussion, questions relating to that? So I've put the recommendation. All those in favour? Things going off on me. 2.5 is the Heritage Advisory Committee minutes of the 8th of May 2025. The recommendation they be received and noted. With Councillor Gardner. Any discussion or questions relating to those? Councillor Maven.
Yeah, just a reminder that the Heritage Awards this Thursday evening at 6 p.m. will be held at Centenary. And you're all invited, of course, so we hope to see a lot of you there. Thank you.
Any further questions or discussion? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. The microphones are playing up. Item 3 is adjourned debate. There is none. Item 4 is presentations and deputations. We have a deputation from the Mount Compass Club regarding funding support for irrigation at the Mount Compass Opal. We've got Josh Anderson, the Vice President, and Martin, who's the Secretary, here to talk about. Do you need more than 5 minutes?
Thank you for this opportunity. Yes, I think these things never seem to run the amount of time you rehearse them. So yes, if we could have a few more minutes, that would be appreciative. I'd point out that it's the request is for funding at the Burgess Oval at Mount Compass. There are in fact 2 ovals there. There's the Mount Compass Town Oval, and this is the Burgess Oval, which we're seeking funding for. And we're looking to automate the in-ground irrigation system at the Burgess Oval. The current system is a main line around the edge of the oval with 19 taps, and it's a manually operated system, so the 19 in-ground taps have to be turned on and off at regular intervals by hand by someone going to the oval. It takes many hours just to get through one watering in a week, and that particular system, it restricts the watering in daylight hours, limits the effectiveness of the water that's used, it maximises the cost of watering because we have to run a bore during the daylight hours, and it's extremely time consuming. We have a quote for $21,000 to automate that system, which has been in place since 2013. As a club, we installed that irrigation system ourselves, and at the time we didn't have the costs, the funds to be able to automate it, so that's why we had to put a manual system in. We've got some slides here that show some of the previous projects. It's pretty hard to read. There's 16 projects there. The total cost of those projects is $205,000, and we've been supported by the council contribution payments, oval contribution payments, between $4,000 and $5,000 each time, and there's been several of those projects that we've had SACA funding for, but just running through briefly some of them, I can, here we go. Retractable training nets, stick down mats on the training pitches, the in-ground irrigation system, rooftop solar panel system, which is not particularly effective, but it's there. cafe blinds and our alfresco areas, a kitchen upgrade. We've provided half the share for a mower for the town oval and that we share with the town oval. We've constructed change rooms. We've put in a turf cricket pitch, which was $64,000. We've bought a pitch mower and a pitch roller. We extended the alfresco area. Most recently we're putting in some car park lighting and upgrading our grounds shed. And some of the, that's just one view of the cafe blinds that encompass the alfresco area. It's our kitchen upgrade. It's enables us to run functions there which support the club's activities. A turf cricket pitch. There's only one of three turf pitches in our whole Great Southern area. Encounter Bay and Victor Harbour being the other two, and we manage that as a club. Just by way, if you want to go back for a sec, when we put that in, we because of the requirements of putting a turf pitch in, you don't just, there's three pitches, there's a buffer area around it, and we had to shift 700 square metres of turf off the oval just to be able to put that in, and we relayed that on the surrounds of the oval so to eliminate some of the dry, barren areas that didn't get watered very much. So, you know, there's a lot of work gone into that and continually going into it every week. It's our grounds shed where we keep our roller, mower, scarifier, and the other equipment, spare clay for the turf pitch. Even the lawn clippings go back into it. The clippings off the pitch get saved and go back. It's our cricket nets with the retractable box nets are housed in the boxes, the black boxes you can see at the back, and the protective padding on the posts to protect our players. We were the first club to actually install those practice nets with the retractable netting in our association, and that was back in 2007. So we've been an innovative club. Apologise for not being able to read the quote. It's for $21,000. There's 2 days labour for 5 people, and that's about half the cost, and the rest is in parts for that particular quote. Going back to those total projects, that $100,000 that we've put in, obviously some of that has been in kind, where we've done the work ourselves, but that's still the total cost of the projects was $200,000. There's been no other contribution sought from council, and none provided. Understandably, if we didn't seek any, we wouldn't expect to get any, apart from the annual oval contribution payments, which have been most welcome and much appreciated. There was a possibility under discussion at some stage to install some public toilets at Burgess Oval if there was enough funding left over after the toilets were installed at the recreation ground, the skate park, and it's just adjacent to the oval, but that didn't eventuate because there wasn't enough. The funds were all used pretty much on the skate park, which is understandable because that was the allocation. The cricket club's got a vision for building a new club room at Burgess Oval. We're getting too big for the small one that we have, which is a 6x9 shed. It was originally the scout shed at Mount Compass, and we dismantled it, took it to pieces, took it up to Burgess Oval, rebuilt it along with the soccer club, and you saw the interior before with the kitchen in it, and the actual club room where we can hold functions to someone is 6 metres square, which is rather tiny. So we use the alfresco area for lots of things, but we need a new club rooms, and that will have internal toilets, so we don't need the public toilets up there anymore. We've developed a concept plan for that particular building, and we're working towards that one, and that's going to be a major focus for the next few years. But just to reiterate, automation of the irrigation system to enable us to water at night, to get more efficient use of the water that we do put onto the oval, to reduce the costs by being able to do it at night, and really importantly, we'll have more time to devote to cricket activities. And we're seeking any financial support the council can provide to facilitate that $21,000 project. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Bob. Are there any questions? Councillor Scott.
Thank you for that. That was good. You've obviously been pretty active over the years and created a lot for yourselves. What's the membership?
147 at the moment.
Yep. So currently we have teams. We have 3 senior men's teams. We've got also, for the first time in quite a while, we've got senior colts, junior colts, under 12s, under 10s and blasters. So been really focusing on building our junior playing core over the journey of the last 5 years, of which we've pretty much doubled or tripled the numbers of juniors playing. And keeping our 3 senior teams means we're keeping older people playing. So myself at nearly 50, still able to play cricket up at campus. My son, who's 19, playing in the A grade. That's great. And also as a coach of the under 12s, seeing all the juniors come through as well. So we're really proud of the fact that within campus we can provide that recreation and sport engagement for people from, boys, girls, men and women from, 8, 9 years old all the way through to, I think our eldest current player is probably nearly 60. Yep. So quite good.
Thank you. That's good.
Any further questions? Councillor Cummins.
I was going to ask you some questions, but I probably don't need to because you've covered it so well. But it's obvious that you're a dedicated group of volunteers making that club work the way you do. And I'm sorry that we couldn't help you with the public toilets, but I would imagine that when you're looking at your new club rooms, they'll incorporate proper facilities like that, and that's fantastic. Have you got any? I mean, it's the only bit of land in that area that actually is really owned by council. All the rest of the land, the other ovals and things, is all owned by the community. Have you got any thoughts in terms of the future of the Burgess Oval itself?
I guess there's a number of things that we'd like to do. Are you talking about in terms of facilities or? Well, the club room's one. If we had the funds, we'd really like to install a significant net along the eastern boundary just above the skate park, because we consistently lose cricket balls there because there's a jungle in there at the top between Burgess Oval and the skate park. So a net to prevent balls going over there would be pretty good, but we're looking significant amounts of money, and we'd rather look for the balls and water the oval properly at this stage.
But also too, looking to potentially upgrade our nets. As you see, they're probably well over 20 years old, and improving the safety elements of those nets with a more contemporary cricket net set up now, which enables big trainings where lots of people can be there, and obviously still have them available for community use as well. So as well as the club room project down the track too. So.
And speaking of community use, I can attest to the fact that there is a significant number of people, those of you who know the geography of Mount Compass, Burgess Oval is up near the cemetery. It services the newly developed part of the community, and there's a huge number of people who use that oval just to walk their dogs and walk themselves. You can rarely go there without seeing people walking around it, and to that end, we've actually installed an AED, a defibrillator that can be used, because a lot of those people are ageing. But it's a community facility in that respect. We welcome people to use it for that.
Any further? Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Worship. I just wanted to say well done. That was a great deputation. Lots of really relevant information. I just wanted to clarify if we'll be treating this as a submission to the annual business plan, or will they make a formal submission, because we're consulting on the budget for next year. So I would just really encourage you to put all that in writing to council, or if we can just automatically please consider that as a submission, because I thought it was excellent. Thank you. Well done.
Which is it? Do we need to include, put in a submission?
Through the Chair, it would be really helpful if you could, as part of our business plan and budget process, just put in a submission. It may simply be a presentation with a request with that. That's all we need, and just make sure that we capture it as part of that process.
Thank you. We can do that.
Any further questions or discussion? No? Doesn't mean to say you have to use it. Have you got a question?
Sorry, I don't want to use it, but I think it's probably important to also say that your current club rooms have got septic system for the toilets.
Yes.
And I would imagine your new club rooms would be incorporated into the CWMS scheme.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
Further? So Josh and Bob, thank you very much for your time and your presentation, and good luck, and get the application into us, and we'll get on.
Thank you. And thank you for listening to us.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
So, item 5 is petitions, there are none. Item 6 is questions with notice. 6.1 is a question from Councillor Miller regarding the Goolwa Centenary Hall fee waivers and reductions. 6.2 is a question from Councillor Miller regarding the draft annual community plan 25-26 for consultation and discretionary services. 6.3 is a question from Councillor Miller regarding climate change performance measures, external stakeholder engagement and prioritising township greening. And the questions and the answers to those questions are contained within the agenda. Item 7 is questions without notice. Are there any questions without notice? Councillor Maiden.
Just the one from the April council meeting. It was stated that a new community memorials policy would be prepared for endorsement later in 2025. Do we have a timeline on that?
Through the Mayor. It'll be the back end of this year, so probably around September time. It's a brand new policy that we need to pull together and then bring that through.
Any further questions without notice? Councillor Miller.
Just very quickly, thank you, Worship. I'm just checking in on the progress of the Strathalbyn Town Hall, if we're inching at all closer to being able to set a date for a council meeting in Strathalbyn in the hall. Thank you.
Thank you. Through the Mayor. The community team, my team, haven't taken ownership of that building yet. It's happening very shortly. So we're unable to still give any further date because my team need to really get in there and understand the operations to get it ready for the hire only. But we can definitely keep council members up to date once we know more.
Councillor Coomans.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Parks. I've got a couple of questions if I could. The first one is in relation to the questions on notice that Councillor Miller asked in relation to Centenary Hall. I understand that we've received emails from the Goolwa Town Band re the proposed changes for use of the hall, charges for the use of the hall, be they for their practice or for concerts. And given that the great community services that they provide, are discussions taking place with the band about how this could be dealt with to the satisfaction of council and the band? And one suggestion is that if they are charged appropriate fees, that there be a contrary grant, annual grant that covers those costs.
Stacey's done that, so do you want to say something, Stacey?
Thank you. Through the Mayor. So myself and the Manager of Community Connection and Activation and the Team Leader of Community Connection all met with 3 members of the band, including the President, and it was a really positive meeting. We talked through a lot of aspects. We have still presented them with some fees and charges for both their rehearsals and their concert nights. which they were quite receptive to, and we're trying to be as sensitive as we can with the different costs and the transition, knowing that they provide such great community value and goodwill. So we have still charged them something as a proposal, which they were quite happy with. They're just going away to talk to their committee, and I actually heard from them today that they want it in writing now so they can put it to their committee formally. I did mention that they can come back to me any time if they still want to know any more or have more negotiations. And I did put to them as well that they can go to any of their elected members should they wish to ask for no fee or something to do with a grant, but I haven't broached a grant with them at this stage.
And I've just got another question on 6.2 that Councillor Miller asked in terms of discretionary services. Noting that $170,000 is granted to council-owned Milang, Goolwa and Strath community centres to cover an amount for staffing and the like, when the other non-council-owned halls have an annual grant of $10,000 in total, which is about $1,000 each, and therefore probably cannot afford to pay for any staffing. So I also mentioned the Middleton Hall, where the hall and the adjacent residents are council owned, whereas the asphalt sealed car park is owned by the community, and I think council actually pay for that sealing. I also mentioned the Port Elliot Old Council Chamber, the Institute and the RSL halls, which are all council owned. So I'm wondering, is there perhaps a workshop that we can arrange in the foreseeable future when we can explore the inequities and other issues in relation to the halls and the community centres in Alexandrina?
Thank you. Through the Mayor, members can request a workshop to talk through that, and we can explain a little bit more about what all those contributions actually go towards as well, so that everyone's fully understanding. But yes, I presume that you can ask for that workshop and we can go with it. Yep.
Could I ask for that workshop, please?
Are there any further questions without notice? If not, we will move on to item 8, which is notice of motions. As 8.1 is a motion from Councillor Miller regarding the Goolwa Oval Capital Renewal and Upgrade projects in the draft 25-26 annual community plan. You will do motion 1. There's 2 motions with a motion, which is I've asked previously. Please, let's have one motion and one motion. So, but we'll do motion 1 first. Do you wish to move that and speak to it?
Your Worship, I've been reflecting upon this, and just for some advice, would this be better considered at the June council meeting or at the budget adoption meeting? I'm just not sure how, because I'm actually contemplating withdrawing it tonight, both of these, and I'm just seeking some advice as to if I do withdraw it tonight, when can this be considered?
Through the Chair, there is an opportunity as Council's consideration of community feedback on the 25-26 annual community plan. So it would certainly be a good opportunity to discuss that further. And further to that, we'll see where we're at in terms of the lease at that point in time. Thank you.
Based on that advice, Your Worship, I would like to withdraw both of these motions tonight. Thank you.
Right, thank you. So item 9 is administration reports. 9.1 is the future direction on Customs House. There's a recommendation there with 5 dot points. I think it might be better. I'm happy to move them all on block, but I think it would be better to move them individually. And so we'll do dot point 1 first, which is note the contents of the report. Can move Councillor Nicholson. You wish to speak to that? No. Councillor Miller, you're seconding it? And you wish to speak to it? No. So is there any discussion regarding what we're doing is receiving and noting? If not, I'll put that to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. We go to dot point 2. So Councillor Coomans, want to move that or?
I'd like to move an alternative for number 2, if I could. I'd like to move that Council resolves not to consider the sale of or future use of Customs House until Council has undertaken a refreshed review of future opportunities for the site.
So, do you wish to speak to it at all?
If I could.
Yeah.
Look, in other words, what I'm saying is that first off, we do the service review framework, we do the Goolwa Wharf Precinct review, and then a decision is made in relation to the future of Customs House. It may well be that it would best serve as the new location of a hotel or a community centre or anything else. Indeed, it could even be an item of sale to the community centre incorporated, perhaps for $1 or something, just like Council purchased the Austin W in the past. And they can see that they can seek grants. They already said they can seek, easy to seek grants and what have you. But I think to try and put a stop to it now, I think we need to see the whole picture. I'd like to see the broader picture first, and then we can make a decision about the future of Customs House. I guess one thing is absolutely definite. It has proper protection under heritage, and no one's ever going to demolish it or do anything significant to it because of the heritage protection on it. So I'm moving that as I've just said.
So do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Maidner, and do you wish to speak to that?
Only that this is a good way forward. If it does transpire that it comes for sale, there is always that opportunity for the Neighbourhood Centre to put an expression of interest. I'd be keen to look at their proposal, revisit their proposal, I should say. It is a community asset. The community is made up of all of our ratepayers, and they are all the way from Woodchester through to Kyneton, and I think I know there's a big push from Goolwa ratepayers to retain it as a neighbourhood centre, and rightly so for them. But this is about the whole of Alexandrina benefiting from this particular asset, so I'll support that motion.
Any further discussion? So, Councillor Livingston.
Thank you, Mayor Parks. I can't support this motion as put forward. I think enough's enough. We've had sufficient time to consider the sale. They're, in my view, completely independent of one another. We've gone through community consultation. 83% of our community do not want it sold that participated in the consultation process. We need to be able to show the community that we have listened to them and that we are prepared to protect this asset from sale in the future. So I can't support this, and I will be foreshadowing a motion if this is lost.
So is it anybody talking for the recommendation? No? So, Councillor Coomans, do you wish to write a reply? Before you have your right of reply, I just want to clarify one thing, loud and clear. It's being taken off the market not to be not sold at this stage, so it's no longer on the market, and it's got nothing to do with the community centre. It's this whole idea is to take a holistic report of every asset we own in that precinct and how it interacts and how it gets used and the best use for it and what our community want us to see done with it. So we shouldn't be saying we're not doing it. We shouldn't be precluding anything until we've spoken to the community. The last, unfortunately Peter Oliver's not here, so I'm going to speak some of the stuff that he would like to have said. The last consultation we did most recently was hugely biased and very, very badly promoted in the community and painted council in a disgusting way, which this council never ever had any intention of participating in. It was appalling, and I was ashamed. It made it look like we were going to turn an asset, a beautiful asset, and absolutely destroy the heritage value of it. When we, as I've mentioned before, we really, really, really clearly, in black and white, it's in our records, done everything we could to protect the heritage of that asset. It's evidence there in our council minutes from the past. So, Councillor Creaming, do you wish to?
What I was going to say is what you just said, Mayor Parks, in essence. I think Customs House is a jewel in the crown, you know, besides the actual wharf front itself. It's such an important feature of that whole area, and we've got to be very careful what we do with it and how we go about it. And there are a number of options, and I mentioned the community centre, and you can't get away from that because that's where the push is coming from. And you know, the community consultation, I think, in my eyes, was pretty worthless because I guess we didn't, as a council, sell the project as a whole. We didn't put enough information out there in terms of what can and what can't happen. And unfortunately, a group has taken that to mean that the place is going to be knocked over. It's not going to be knocked over. It's going to stay there. It's going to stay as the jewel in the crown. And I think we need to have, as someone's mentioned, an holistic look of the whole area, and let's make the right decision, something that we're all going to be proud of. And certainly just saying we're not going, what the original motion was is just not adequate. We need to step back and have a good look at this. Don't talk about time, let's do it properly.
That ends the discussion on dot point 2, so I'll put that to you. All those in favour? Against? So that's a tie. So I will vote in favour of the motion. It's carried. So we move to dot point 3. Is there a mover for that? Nobody going to move it? Councillor Freemans? Wish to speak to it? Is there a seconder? Councillor Maidman? You wish to speak to it? Is there any discussion or questions regarding that? Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Worship. I was hoping that perhaps we could adjust some wording here, and I'll seek Lee. I would like to know when the service review framework is going to be considered, and I just wondered if we could put some noting that it's expected to be considered by Council at its July 2025 meeting, if I understand the report correctly. I think we need to capture that and honour that. I feel that we are continually kicking this can down the road, and I would have liked to have closed the loop on the consultation that's just been done with our community. We haven't done that, and the community is still waiting to know what we're going to do. So I'm seeking to either move a separate motion after this one's been considered, foreshadowing that I would like to put some time frame around when this service review framework work is going to be done, because I just fear we're going to be sitting here with the community not knowing what we're doing. I also think we should not be passing judgment on how the community responds. It's not the first time. If what people are saying is, a value judgment on how the community's responded, won't be the last. Good on the community for being engaged and taking an interest. It's up to us to listen to how they feel, and if they've misunderstood, well, maybe we need to change how we do community engagement. But I just am disappointed that we're not going to make a decision tonight. To me, the decision was not about the community house, it wasn't about anything, it was about whether we're going to sell the place or not. And we haven't made that decision yet again.
Through the chair, I'd certainly don't want to enter the debate in any way, shape or form, but my observations, being reasonably new here, is the whole Wharf precinct, I think, was not done appropriately in terms of engagement, early engagement with the community. A consultant was engaged for various reasons. They took a journey and then we went to consultation on that journey the consultant took. To do it well, Council really needs a strong, well-considered service review framework which sets out the approach in a considered manner. To rush a process again without an appropriately considered framework, I think, is risky to Council, and my recommendation would be for Council to take that deep breath, take its time, make sure the service review is exactly where Council members want to see it, making sure that the service review is guiding every step of the way so that we can effectively and appropriately engage our community, key stakeholder groups, a broader community, and do the consultation well so that Council can make the most appropriate decision for that precinct.
Any further discussion? Councillor Nicholson.
Thank you, Worship. My hesitation with this motion is that, as Councillor Miller said, the time that this will take, the activation of our Wharf precinct and the huge project and work that we've done there, the investment, the commitment that this council has to activating this really important part of our region, you know, has been a journey, and I think we all probably, well, you know, for myself, I probably had hoped that this, you know, might be further along at this point. So my hesitation is that, you know, we're holding off any further action until a service review framework has been adopted by Council. And my concern, as I said, Councillor Miller articulated earlier, is that, you know, how long it will take. But ultimately, at this point, I would support this motion because it is so important that we are listening to our community and making sure we get this decision right. So, you know, we go out to consultation and we have to be open to hearing and listening to what our community has to say. We've done that. We don't have a clear way forward at this time, so we have to do the work to have a clear way forward. You know, I can see that the service review framework as a first step in that is important. So ultimately, at this stage, I would support this motion.
Any further discussion, Councillor Livingston?
Question, why can't we put a time frame in? A time frame, why can't we put a time frame in?
Through the Chair, the report does identify July for the service review framework to be considered by Council. I do understand Tash does have a breakdown of some milestone dates to actually get to that point, so perhaps it would be of value for Tash to share that.
Through the Chair, what the plan is with our agenda date, so we've got about a month to produce the framework. We'll be scheduling it to be reviewed by Executive on the 19th of June, so exactly 1 month. Then we'd be planning on bringing it to Council for a workshop and an information session. And for example, our agenda for the July meeting, the documents have to be in for agenda review by the 9th of July, and agenda will come out on the 17th. So we've got like about a month to produce that to get it in for the July meeting, and that includes a workshop with council members. So that's what our timeline looks like now.
With the approval of the mover and seconder, can we please put a time frame in there then, or July?
Yes, the mover. Moved by Councillor Kemp. Happy that we put the July there. It's what it's planned to go in for.
Look, I'm happy with that because I was going to talk about time and what have you. So if it can be done by the general meeting in July, that's good.
Councillor Mayman, you happy? Yep. So that's okay. So we'll include. I'll leave the meeting to. Yep. So we've been trying to be changing the way we do things a bit. I'm getting. Lachlan's coaching me here on the side. We're waiting to do things a bit differently. So we leave of the meeting. We want to include that in there. The mover seconder have approved it. So all those in favour? Anybody against it? 1. So it's carried. So. That's right, it's not a motion, it's just a show of hands. Happy with that wording? Yep. So is there any further discussion? Councillor Scott.
I have a question. What's the cost implication of 3 and 4?
We're only talking about 3. So let's worry about number 3 that we're talking about at the moment.
Well, the two are linked. So then my question is for the 2.
Well, you can ask.
I'm not going to ask the question in 2 sections about when it's related to one subject.
I don't wish to argue with you, but we're doing item 3. So we'll answer item 3 first.
So the service review framework cost implication, is that the question, or?
The 2 are linked. And that's why I asked for a total cost of you do one and then you're doing the other. So I'm trying to establish whether going down the path of having a framework first and then going to do a review afterwards, the total cost implication of that, because the 2 are linked.
Okay. Through the chair, so the service review framework is going to be done internally by staff. And in terms of the approach on the Goolwa Wharf holistic approach, that will also be done internally by staff. So in terms of external costs, there won't be any external cost. It'll be the cost that's absorbed as part of a normal operational budget. So no additional cost.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Crimmins, do you wish to write a reply on this one?
Well, only I appreciate the fact that we put a timeline in there and it's achievable. That's really good. Thank you.
That ends the discussion on dot point 3. I'll put that to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. So we go to dot point 4. Is there a mover for that? Move, Councillor Livingston.
Thank you, Mayor Parks.
Speak to it?
Yes, and I would like to move a slightly different recommendation. So at the end of community stakeholders, can you please have including but not limited to Chitterslow, the Friends of Little Scotland, and all parties who submitted an expression of interest to lease the premises in the last 2 years. Lease Customs House, I should say. And I would like to add a further dot point. The review includes, but is not limited to, the clarification of the past and current community land status and future options available in this regard of each council-owned land parcel in the Wharf Precinct. Thank you. Yeah, thanks. Reason why I've made these amendments is also to make sure that we capture the community stakeholders that we spoke to at our last workshop. I found their feedback quite valuable, especially in respect of Customs House and the Scrack and Signal Point in relation to it being an art gallery. As to the second point, I think it's also important that we consider this in particular in relation to Customs House. I think the history is a bit murky from what I've read, and if in the future Council does resolve not to sell Customs House, I think we also need to consider whether we reclassify Customs House as community land to make sure that the procedures under the Act are followed in the future. Just in that regard, I think it's important to note that the feedback from community member Steve Grieve, who is also an architect, that had the development proceeded of a hotel as proposed, it would destroy the heritage integrity of the site. And whilst I'm not talking about the sale right now, the classification as community land is quite important to that. So I would like us to consider that in any future report. Thank you.
So do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Gardner? And do you wish to speak to it? So is any... Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Worship. The only point that I would like to make is I'd like to have seen added again a timeline for when this review will be done, and I would like to see the words added and the holistic review be completed no later than the 31st of December 2025. That's a very long time frame in my view. I'd like it to be sooner rather than later, but understanding the priorities and what's on our workload moving forward for this year. Again, I just think that there needs to be a time frame on this so that our community is very aware of how much longer this is going to be drawn out for. So again, I would seek either as an amendment or Councillor Livingston would be open to varying her motion to include a date for the holistic review to be completed.
So, Councillor Livingston, are you happy to include that? Councillor? Yeah, we're talking that we finish that we do this, adopt the framework and do the collaboration by the 25th, by December 25. Yes, complete by then. Is that okay? So, okay. So leave of the meeting. Everybody happy with that? Yes.
I mean the 1st or 31st of December?
I put by the end of December. So it would come to December, as I was just saying, that would come to our December council meeting. So we'd need to have it ready for that December council meeting. So you happy with that? Second, happy? So leave of the meeting that we do that variation. All those in favour of that? That's okay, thank you. So is there any further discussion? Councillor Scott.
I didn't think that I'd have to go back in history to find out how long this has been going. but I'm just profoundly disappointed in where we are with this whole project. It's been clearly, certainly, if you want to define it as principally Goolwa people, so be it. Probably doesn't matter to a person with the greatest respect at Callington or Woodchester what we do with it, but it does to Goolwa people, and I think the Goolwa people have spoken fairly loudly. This just reflects so unfortunately on our council that we get projects like this or matters that have to have a decision made, and we go on and on and on and round and round and round, and it just takes years to make a decision. And I had hoped that we could have done better than that. Trying to lump it in with all due respect to all the suggestions and all the comments made, lumping it in with sort of comparing it with a review that involves the police station or the post office. They're completely different different applications. We want to make a decision on this building, get it sorted out, get someone into it, and move on. But no, we're going to spend the whole of this year until the end of December until we've even going to make a decision on it. Now, it's last time it was put off because it was slipped into phase 2, I think it was called phase 2, and so we didn't make a decision back then, and people wanted a decision made, and I'm just profoundly disappointed, and I just think we've got to be in a position in future to make more appropriate decisions and timely decisions about things that we have to make decisions on. This is very, very disappointing. It's a part of our historic part of the centre of Goolwa. You know, we're sort of floating towards retaining it, but it's certainly been a protracted, almost passive resistance to coming to a decision. So I'm afraid I'm very disappointed.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, so just before Councillor Livingston has a right of reply, I'll just clarify a couple of things here. It hasn't been going around in circles and going nowhere. It's been doing nothing. We went to the community back in, I think, 2012 or 17 or something like that. I'll have to get I've got those records with me. And we did go to the community, and the community with a whole series of options following some recommendations from consultants we used, and we went out to the market for expressions of interest to develop the site, retaining the house and upgrading that and retaining the heritage value of it and providing some accommodation on that site. It wasn't 80 rooms, it was 23 beds that they came back with, and it was a fantastic proposal that they put forward. It didn't interfere with the house, but through again, as I boringly repeat myself sometimes, we didn't go ahead. The council declined to go ahead with that proposal because we were concerned of losing control of the future development on that site. So we didn't, and that was to protect the heritage value of it. So we didn't go ahead, and nothing's happened with it since. It's never been to council for discussion. It's never been suggested to go back to the market, never been suggested to go back to the community. So it hasn't been going around and round in circles. It's actually been going nowhere. And that's the most frustrating part. So after going to all this trouble years ago, consulting and going through the process, we're back on it again. So this time, thank goodness, and I think that the presentations we had at our workshop was unusual for us to, we've never done it before, where we've allowed people to give us presentations during a workshop. But it was good because there were some good ideas. Steve particularly came up with some excellent ideas of lots of things that we can do, and we need to explore those. And we can't do that in 5 minutes. We need to do this properly and get it right once and for all and stop mucking around. And so I think the time frames sound quite reasonable, and I just hope we can get on with it. And you know, and we come out with what the community want, but we've got to let the community have a really good look at what we're going to do and have their say. Councillor Livingston, do you wish to sum it up?
Thank you, Mayor Parks. Yeah, I do. And I know that this recommendation is not specifically about the sale of Customs House, but I do tend to agree with Councillor Scott in that regard. It is very disappointing that we couldn't come to a conclusion on that this evening, with 83% of the participants being against the sale. I'm trying to work with what I've got here, and I'm trying to make sure that we include the community land status as part of that, as part of trying to protect this building for future generations. I don't see any harm in having that in there. I want to make sure that we consult with Chitterlow, with Friends of Little Scotland. I also see no harm in that being in there. I do take on board what administration say in relation to a holistic view and what we can do with the Wharf precinct. I think we have been bitten multiple times in relation to development of the Wharf precinct at cost to our community, and we just need to get on with it and make a decision. And as I said, working with what I've got.
So that ends the discussion on dot point 4. So I'll put that to you. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. So now we go to dot point 5. Is there a mover for that? Councillor Miller, you're moving it?
I have a question because I don't quite understand the wording of it. I think there is either some words missing after the word morgue. Should there be in there but not until the holistic review has been completed? Because it says note a further report will be presented at the next available council meeting to consider short-term lease for the chart room, the superintendent's cottage and morgue until the holistic review has been... it doesn't quite make sense to me.
The answer's quite clear, simple, but you go ahead.
Through the chair, what we're saying is we do have some people that are currently on holding over leases, so the Alex FM and the radio. So what this motion is, just letting you know, if it's supported, that administration will bring forward some reports to deal with those on a short-term basis. So those people have some short-term security until you do your further review.
So now, do we have a mover? Councillor Gardner? And do you wish to speak to it? Yeah.
I do. Thank you. This has been very painful tonight for me because our historic buildings that we own are incredibly important. They're incredibly important to me, but more to the point, they're incredibly important to our community. They love the history of this area, and you only have to talk about the history of the wharf to the Oscar W. Friends, to the arm-filled slipmen, and they would wholeheartedly agree that the history is so important, and the buildings that we own as a community need to be retained in community hands. But as for 5, I want to talk in particular to the superintendent's cottage, because yesterday I spoke to the chairman of the Alex FM. They've occupied the superintendent's house for 22 years, and they had a long-term lease. In 2023, I believe, they were put on a monthly lease because there was hope in council staff, I believe, that somehow we would get someone else to lease that property and we would make, that is, council would make a bit of money of it. But these people have been there for 22 years. There are 68 members and they pay $20 each year to become a member. They're a local organisation providing local radio content to our community. They don't want to move from the Superintendent House. They want to have surety of tenure and have been waiting to replace the worn-out carpets in the recording studios, but they put it on hold, of course, because when you've only got a 1-month lease, you'd be crazy to put down new carpets. So for the last 2 years, they have been on a lease on a monthly basis, and there has been no security, and they're still on that 1-month lease. To move, if they have to move, they would have to request from the Australian Communication and Media Authority permission to purchase a new licence for their radio station. That would be $1,000. They would need to move by cherry picker, which of course will cost them money, the 2 large antennae that they own. Their call sign would need to be changed because where the aerials will be placed won't be the same as it is at the present time. So the cost of moving and setting up again would cost them between $35,000 and $45,000. All up, if it's $45,000 to move and have all their equipment, all their, as you can imagine, there's a huge amount of equipment that will have to go with them. All up, it's likely to cost them $46,000. This is an organisation whose only funding comes from the 68 members who pay the $20 a year, local businesses advertising their goods and services, and how important is this little radio station for these businesses, our local businesses? And they also get a grant from the Community Broadcasting Foundation and the occasional activity, fundraising activities that they do. The social benefits that flow from the radio station activity is really important. Most of the members are older, they're retired, and the radio station provides a way for people to stay mentally and emotionally healthy, apart from the fact that they actually provide an extraordinary service for our community 7 days a week.
Councillor Gardner, you've gone over 5 minutes.
May I have just a minute longer?
A few seconds, yeah.
Thank you. These local people are ratepayers, and I wonder, what does it say about council and the care that we have for local organisations using council-owned buildings? They feel like they're neglected and unappreciated. They feel like little mushrooms growing in the dark. They don't know much about what is going on. While council's financial viability is essential, if we believe economics are the most important focus, I think we miss the point of local government. We're here for the people. That is the reason that local government exists. I can think of no other group who would use the building better. In fact, in 2 years of seeking a business to lease the Superintendent's house, there's been no one come forward. In the 30 years of living in Goolwa, I can remember it being used as a dwelling and a bookshop called Zebras, and that was very fleeting.
You've gone well and truly over 6 minutes now, so you were going to finish and sum up, so they're the rules.
So,
if you can finish quickly, that's fine.
Thank you. Alex FM has provided 22 years of radio to Goolwa and deserves to retain its lease.
So, do we have a seconder? Councillor Miller, you should second it?
Yes. May I speak? Yes. With Councillor Gardner's consent, I would like to just take out the word available so that this report is coming back to the next council meeting. Because if you're happy with that, Councillor Gardner.
variation. So, Councillor Gardner, you're happy with that? So the leave of the meeting to include that variation. All those in favour? Against? That's fine. That's it. A show of hands, yeah, that's good. We did that. So is there any further discussion? Councillor?
Sorry, Worship. I just wanted to say I do agree with the points that Councillor Scott has made. When I read this report, I thought dealing with the future of Customs House. Then as I read the agenda item, it became clear we are dealing with more than just the future of Customs House. We're talking about the chart room, the superintendent's cottage, the morgue, all of that precinct. So it just does make it hard to go back and find decisions when we go searching on report titles. So perhaps in future, maybe the title could have reflected more. This is not just about Customs House. And I also express my disappointment that we haven't made a decision tonight for our community. But I've said that already. So I look forward to the next council meeting for at least this part of it being sorted out. Thank you.
Any further discussion? So for Councillor Gardner, just as far as I understand the situation, the radio station is, I agree with you what you say, they're fantastic, they do a great job, it's a lovely little building, but I don't know, I have to go back, I can't go back to the dates, but as long as I can remember, there's always been an understanding with the radio station that if ever the suggestion was for them to relocate, that it would be with their agreement and would be a minimum of 12 months notice to undertake such a move. I know it was discussed when the ANZ Bank moved out. We were talking about maybe putting them into part of the front of Centenary Hall. It's going back years, I can't remember the dates, but there's never been any decision, any thoughts of kicking them out of the building, not unless they agreed to it. But, Councillor Gardner, do you wish to write a reply? I think I've said plenty, but you can maybe write a reply if you wish. No, all right. I'll put it to you. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. 9.2 is the A2040 Community Strategic Plan, the delivery plan rebuild of 2025, and there's a recommendation with 2 dot points. You must move that and speak to it.
Yes, very quickly, Your Worship. Sorry. Sorry, I'm delighted to move this motion. I think the key benefits in the report speak to it. As a new council member in the lead up to the November 2022 elections, and now even after 2.5 years, it's been challenging to align all of these plans. You don't turn a ship around overnight, and this rebuild, along with the service review framework and continuous improvement mindset, will be critical to guide our path to financial reform and sustainability. So, yes, I love this very much. And I hope that it's supported, and I look forward to the outcome, and thank you very much for this approach.
So do we have a second? Councillor Nicholson? Do you wish to speak?
Thank you. I'm also really pleased to see this come to council. This body of work will mean a lot to elected members now and in future terms. To be able to make decisions on behalf of our communities and actually progress the innovations and ideas and priorities of our communities on behalf of the community in a really structured way. We do have so many strategies and plans in place, and having them all work together is so important. So I really look forward to this body of work being done.
So is any discussion against the recommendation? If not, we'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Councillor Miller.
Sorry, I just wanted to, in closing the debate, just ask if this will be used at some point to develop an advocacy plan in the lead up to the state government election in March next year. I think that's a document that we should seriously give consideration to having once we get this body of work done. Thank you.
Through the chair, to be honest, I don't think we've yet turned our mind to that, but a good point, thank you.
So I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. Here we go to, back on track here. 9.3 is the Grants and Contributions Program, the quarterly report. There's a recommendation that we receive and note the reports of the contents of the report. Stacey, is there any changes or any updates on that report? So is there any questions for clarity? And I mean clarity, something you don't understand in the report.
Yes, I don't understand how long it's been taking the administration to contact members of the Finniss Cricket Club. I'm just curious as to know what's going to be happening with that site and what the terms of their lease are.
Lisa, could you have an answer to that?
So through the chair, they have an existing lease. What we are not able to do is find a contact for that lease. We've reached out a number of times to the previous president who has forwarded that information on, and we are yet to receive a response. So we're working through our options of what we can do in regards to that lease and who we could notify if we came to a decision that we would need to end that lease.
So we have a recommendation. Do we have a mover? No, Councillor Maiden. Wish to speak to it? No. Is there a seconder? Councillor Livingston. Do you wish to speak to it? Is there any discussion or questions relating to it? Councillor Miller.
I just want to say thank you so very much for this report, and I love everything about it and the information that it provides to our community. So thank you very much.
Is there any further discussion? I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. So 9.4 is the proposed 2024-25 Business Initiative Grant Recipients. Stacey, is there anything to add, to change on that? No. So are there any questions for clarity on that report? Councillor Miller.
What is the Huzza Democracy Proprietary Limited?
Through the Mayor, I'm actually unable to explain anything more at this point. I would have to take that on notice. I do apologise. Oh, Lisa must know. No? Thank you.
Through the chair, it's the operating name for Hector's. Hector's Modern Kitchen.
So, any other clarification required? No. So do we have a mover for the move? Councillor Coomans, do you wish to speak to it?
Look, as a member of that committee, I had forgotten who that group was, but as soon as I said Hector's, obviously it was quite obvious. Yeah, look, I'd just like to acknowledge the great work done by one of the staff members in Bev Bogue in putting all this together. And I think the committee did probably a pretty good job in coming to the decisions, and I'm happy to move it.
So do we have a seconder, Councillor Livingston? Do we have any discussion against, you wish to speak to it? Any discussion against the recommendation? No. So we'll put the recommendation to you, all those. Councillor Miller.
I just want to say again, I love this report. It's a good news story. It shows what we do for our community, and I'm very grateful that we've received this to endorse, and it is just a little way that council does help our community out, and I think we should share this and promote it. Thank you.
So is there any further discussion? I don't think there's, I said it before, I don't think there's any point going for and against, because all we're doing is continually speaking for it. We'll be here all night. So I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. 9.5 is the lease and licence policy activities, October to December 2024 and January to March 25 quarterly report. Tash, is that anything on that needs pointing out? Are there any questions for clarity relating to that report? If not, we'll seek a mover for the recommendation that we receive and note the lease and licence policy. Move, Councillor Coomans. And do you wish to speak to it? No. Is there a seconder? Councillor Maidment. Do you wish to speak to it? No. Is there any discussion relating to that? Questions or discussion? If not, I'll put the recommendation. Those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. 9.6 is the Natural Burial Ground Trust of Australia. It's a draft lease to community engagement. Tash, anything? No. Are there any points of clarification regarding that report? If not, we'll seek a mover for that. Move, Councillor Scott. And do you wish to speak to it?
Well, I was going to actually ask a question.
Well, I've already asked and moved on, but so you wish to move it? You can ask the question as part of what you're speaking at the same time.
Sorry, big pardon?
If you wish to move it, you can still ask a question.
All right. Oh, well, I can move it, yes. But my question is in relation to the area. It is a very big area by comparison of the cemetery next door. And I'm just sort of thinking, should we have some sort of guidelines for them in how it's used? Because I can picture that there being the place being scattered in terms of plots issued, and it could just be a bit sort of more random than it was originally intended to be, because it's 3.54, I think it is, hectares, which is about 7 acres. Well, that's a pretty big area. And I just wondered whether just leaving as a open, just a big area that they. I can just picture it being rather random instead of being reasonably orderly.
I can clarify that.
Yep, through the Mayor, thank you for the question. Previous presentations that have been provided to this council have shown that there is staging involved in this site, and they start with a small area and then work from there. Their aim is to regenerate that space using the proceeds from the burials and gradually, in a planned way, move out within the leased area. So it is a very controlled and very planned exercise, and that has been provided. That information has been provided before. Happy to send that back to you again.
Thank you very much. I've seen my neighbours.
If I may add to that through the chair, there is a concept plan on page 65 of the agenda which actually will form part of the draft lease. So it is a part of their lease agreement with us, their concept plan.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
So do we have a seconder, Councillor Maidment? Do you wish to speak to it?
Yes, I'm certainly encouraged by this particular proposal as a natural burial ground, particularly in Goolwa. I did raise at the time when we were discussing this about the opportunities for a similar situation to occur at Strath, because I particularly don't want to be buried at Goolwa. I would like to be buried in my own town. So was that ever something that was explored? I'm not voting against this. I'll vote for it, but I was just curious.
Through the Mayor, there is no resolution of council for us to do that. So no work has been done on exploring that option. But if council wishes to direct the administration to look into that, then they're at liberty to do so.
A question, yep.
I was just intrigued, sorry I didn't raise it earlier, about the length of the lease, and trying to second guess in say 30, 35 years time, someone who's buried then theoretically has only got 7 years in a leased area. We assume that it'll be renewed, but my question relates to why couldn't it be linked to the old CLP, Crown Lease Perpetual, which was 99 years? Because a cemetery is not a transitory thing, it tends to be pretty permanent. And for us to only be doing whatever is 42, it just seemed rather short in terms of a cemetery.
Through the chair, I think Lisa may wish to speak to that, but I'm not sure councils can offer a lease of that length.
Through the chair, thank you, that's correct. The maximum term for local government land, particularly community land, is 42 years, so we've approached it with the maximum term.
Thanks, Lisa. Alan, do you wish to add to that?
Yeah, through the Mayor, just to reiterate that it is a cemetery, therefore there are obligations of the Cemetery Authority to maintain that site with burials within it. So even after that period of time, should the arrangement cease, then the council would still be responsible as the Cemetery Authority to look after that land. So if any people are buried there, it's forever dedicated to that purpose, and it's the job of the authority to make sure that happens.
Thank you.
So is there any further discussion on this one? No? So I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. So we go to 9.7 is the Strath Neighbourhood Centre Incorporated lease proposal. Tash, is there anything to add to that? Is there any questions for clarification regarding this item? If not, do we have a mover for it? Councillor Maidment. And you wish to speak to it?
Briefly, it's a no-brainer. The Neighbourhood Centre has been at these premises for a short time, 5 years, and they are looking for some upgrades to the building, some installation of air conditioning, and they need a longer term, which is consistent with council's policy, to get useful life out of the improvements that they make to the centre, and they are progressing very nicely at the present time. Thank you.
Councillor Miller, you wish to second it? You wish to speak to it? Is there any further discussion on this item? If not, I'll put that to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. 9.8 is the Milang Oval Complex lease update. There's a recommendation there with 4 dot points. Tash, is anything to change that? Been going on for a while. Any questions for clarity? Councillor Miller.
Wonder what happens if the Historical Society run out of water. I don't know if I asked this here or in the...
Through the chair, I'll get the manager of property to answer this question for you.
So through the chair, they've considered it as part of their committee meeting, and they're quite comfortable that they have the water supply they required. However, they're also probably going to apply for some grant funding applications either through council or local businesses from additional tanks. They've certainly got the roof coverage for it, they just need the tanks.
Any further questions? No? So do we have a mover for this? Councillor Scott, and you wish to speak to it?
Yes, I will just briefly. Hopefully this brings to a close this saga. It's been a while, and obviously there's been a lot of work for our staff to work through to get it up to this stage. and hopefully from now on common sense will prevail. In relation to the water, I could see no reason why there couldn't be, there was no reason for a second meter. They could have a sub-meter attached to the original meter and just pay for the bit of water that they use without having to go to the expense of a new meter. Hopefully this resolves it all, and I look forward to it all being resolved and everybody moving on. Thank you.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Miller, do you wish to speak to it?
Just very quickly, Your Worship, I just want to say well done to the administration and the parties to get this worked out. The level of contact from either party to me this time around has been zero, so I'm taking that as a credit to the administration and the parties, and just wanted to say well done. This is a beautiful, beautiful community asset that's treasured by everyone and well used by the community, and I think this is a really great result.
Any further discussion? Councillor Freemans?
When this first came up with 2 leases for essentially the same piece of ground, one reserve, I opposed it then, and in principle I don't support 2 leases on this oval. My recollection is that it was sort of a personality issues that caused all of this. It certainly wasn't good governance. I believe that when you have a precinct like this, you need one committee of management comprised of all of the senior members of the user groups and perhaps somebody representing the community. It's a system that works, and it works in lots of other areas. I cannot see why we need 2 separate leases where they are in fact sharing some of the facilities. Water was just mentioned, and they've now got 2 power boxes and things. In principle, I just don't support this. I think we're going in the wrong way. And in case of someone mentioning this closes it all, I don't think it does. I expect there'll be some issues that'll come up, and council will be very much involved in that. And I don't think this is the right direction for council to go at all.
Is there any further discussion? Councillor Scott, you right of reply on this? No. So I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. To 9.9 is the Obelisk at Freemans repair, update and budget. Alan, anything changing on that in this report? No. Is there any questions for clarity on this? We will remember it hit by lightning. Councillor Miller?
Yes, my question just relates to the budget, and I just wanted to try and clarify what is the operational impact in 24-25, and is it, because it refers to that in the report, is it borrowings or just increasing our operating deficit? And if it's in the draft budget at 110,000 in capital open space renewal, I was just trying to understand if we're talking about this current budget or next current budget, the work it's going to get. I had trouble following it, and I'm sorry I didn't have time to ask a question of clarification before.
Through the Mayor, as per the recommendation, this is seeking a new project to be entered into the capital program for this financial year, 24-25. The part of that would be the 95,000 that is within the recommendation, noting that there's an additional 104,000 that's coming from insurance that we've managed to get with regards to the lightning strike on the Obelisk. So in terms of the cost of that, it's a capital cost in the first instance, so it's part of its renewal, it's part of the depreciation that council sets aside for its assets. In terms of the payback on that, it would be in terms of the insurance, sorry, not sure, the interest that is payable back on that. I can't give you an absolute figure on what that is. I can come back to you on that, but it's not that whole amount. It's a portion of that, as it is for every other piece of capital work.
So, through the chair, if I may add further to Alan's comment, so the net impact is at $95,000. So if you want to look at what does that mean to 25, 26, it'll mean that amount will likely flow through those numbers as either probably increased in borrowings of that amount, and that'll flow through into 25, 26, and it will flow through into the long-term financial plan.
So, do we, for clarity, we're talking about clarity, and that this questions are getting into really part of the debate, but you've got a question for clarity? Because you can ask a question about things like that during the debate. So, is there a mover? Councillor Nicholson, do you wish to speak to it?
Thank you, I do. The Obelisk is a really important part of Port Elliot, obviously. It's a piece of work that Council has to do after the lightning strike. It has been some time that this repair has taken. I am uncomfortable with the amount of money that has to be spent on this repair, but I'm grateful that we have had some insurance come towards it. And I think this is an example of one of these unexpected costs that we have to manage going forward, and we have to look at how we manage these additions to our budget. Thank you.
So, do we have a second? Councillor Scott, do you wish to speak to it?
Yes, mate, thank you. I echo what Councillor Nicholson has said. It is a landmark, it has its historic value, but I'm astounded at the cost of repairing it, and I guess I can incorporate a question: has it ever been struck by lightning before? And twice, has it? Oh, because it's actually now going to be reinstated, and this is putting a very fine point on it, not as it was, because it's not going to have a flagpole. And part of the heritage of the whole thing was the flagpole was there, and the flag used to fly. And I'm just a little intrigued that it is, sometimes it appears that those in authority take a hard line on when you're restoring something, and yet they've agreed to waive this when the whole part of it was the flagpole. And I'm just, as I say, astounded that we're looking at 200,000. And I'm intrigued why the insurance doesn't cover it. Why have we only got insurance payout to just over half? Are we doing work over and above what could be done? It appears that what we're doing is just reinstating it. So I wonder why, and another question, why the insurance doesn't cover it, or did we in actual fact, was there an error in the valuation of it and the likely repair of it if it ever were to be damaged?
Through the Mayor, so running through those questions, has it been struck by lightning before? My understanding is it hasn't, otherwise we would have had this conversation at the point that occurred. I understand from the material that was removed or that exploded from it when it was struck by lightning, that's been there since the day it was built in terms of the stone, and then the rendering that went on after it is also original. So I would say no to the question if it's been struck before, but because it has now, then it's reasonably foreseeable it's going to happen again. So to put the flagpole back in, it makes sense that you don't put it back in so that you don't have to redo the whole structure again, as we have done in this instance. In terms of the cost, this has been reinstated by a stonemason. Every single piece of material would have to be hand-picked, it would have to be finished, and it would have to be placed and then mortared in, and then rendered over the top. That's the cost of that very specialised and skilled work. The insurance, I can't speak to the valuation or the adjustment. There would have been I know there was a cost adjuster that came out to look at that, and they made an assessment of the value of that from an insurance perspective. That is the value that we received. That's the 104,000 that is there. The cost to actually replace it is obviously exceeded that cost, and that may be many reasons for that in terms of the specialism of the work that needs to be done, the age of the actual structure itself. So I can't answer completely your question around the insurer, except that they fully assessed it, and that was the funding they would be allowed, they were happy to provide.
So, right, you wish to keep another, will be sort of second again, keep that.
Is there any scope for further negotiation with the insurance company? We're talking about a fairly sizable amount of money, nearly $100,000 that we've got to make up. So I'm just pursuing that as this whole insurance thing intrigues me a little in other areas of council, and I'm just wondering why we're suddenly only halfway up the ladder with our insurance payout.
Through the Mayor, talking insurance, when an item is insured, there are many ways of doing that. You obviously take out insurance yourself, and everyone else does, and you pick a point at which you're going to insure something to. Invariably, something is going to depreciate. It's going to lose value over time as it gets older. And I would say in this instance that it's probably been valued to an extent that from when it was put together in the first place, they may have taken a view. I'm not going to say any more because I don't know. So I think that if you're keenly interested in the whys and wherefores of why we got to that point with that value for the insurer, I can get that information for you and get it to you. But I would restate the position that the insurer and our staff had conversations about this, and this was the best that they would do in this situation.
Thank you for that.
Councillor Thornton, you should speak to it.
Yeah, I just have a question. How many quotes did we get from stonemasons? Was it just the one and we've gone ahead with them, or did we contact a few others?
Through the Mayor, if you can give me 3 stonemasons, I'd be delighted to go to all 3 of them. 1, because this type of specialist work is unfortunately dying out, and trying to find people who are skilled in this work is very, very challenging. However, when we do approach the market in any sense, even if there's a limited field, we still intend to get the best value for the community in terms of the money we're spending. So I'm comfortable that we've done that, and we've done our due diligence around that.
Is there any further discussion? Councillor Miller.
I'm just further to the clarification that I asked earlier. So this project will be done and dusted in this financial year. We're not carrying it forward into 25-26. That's just what I'm trying to understand, Your Worship.
Through the Mayor, this work will be initiated in this financial year. It is highly unlikely it will be completed by the end of this financial year, given the specialism of the work involved, but that would be, that money would be moved into next financial year so that we can complete that work, but it would be initiated this financial year.
Any further discussion? Councillor Nicholson. Alan, the only thing I was going to, stonemasons, you need a structure, you don't just need a stonemason, you need a structural stonemason for this. And there is, I don't know who you've got a quote from, but we do have a structural stonemason who actually has family and comes from Port Elliot, who works in this region all the time, and he is an actual structural stone. So I'd love to give you his details later. Yeah. So, Councillor Nicholson, do you wish to ratify? So I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. 9.10 is the recreational vehicle RV park scoping study, community engagement outcomes. The recommendation with 5 components to it. I can do it en bloc, or I can do them individually. How would you like to do them? Councillor Maidment, what would you do?
I'd like to move 1, 3, 4.
Hang on, no.
Oh, sorry.
I'm trying to find out whether we want to do them individually or en bloc. So I'll just ask the question, do you want to do them en bloc? Who would like to do them en bloc? No, well that answers that question. So we'll start now with the recommendation 1. Is there a mover for that? Alan has an update. Oh, sorry, Alan, sorry. I should have asked that. Yeah, an update.
Yeah, through the Mayor, just to advise the Council that whilst the recommendations wouldn't change subject to what you decide to do, the timing of any expression of interest might be pushed out, only because we do need to talk to the Department for Environment and Water around the current dedication of the land parcel in Strath. It's a reasonably straightforward process, but we still need to go through it with them in terms of changing that purpose from a public car park to something more connected to an RV park. But I just wanted to add that piece of information.
Any questions of clarity about this report? Councillor Cummins, question of clarity?
Well, I think it is. It's in relation to recommendation 2, the RV park in Strath, and the question really is, about 3 years ago, Council purchased 2 blocks of land on South Terrace, opposite Dawson Street, and it's sitting there vacant. It's got a house on the moment which is heritage listed, but has that been considered as a possible site for an RV, especially since the location would be ideal for an RV park? It's right opposite car parking, it's opposite some facilities that any user of that park could be using. Terrible. So has that been considered as part of this report?
Through the Mayor, so this is not the first report that's come to you on this, and we have also discussed this with you at an information session. The consideration of sites is based at the moment broadly on the CMCA recommended criteria for an RV park, but we've also taken some level of engineering view as well. That space that you're referring to, I think, is too small. We would need turnaround facilities and other appropriate space to be able to get RVs in and out of that location. The area by off of Parker Avenue does provide that opportunity given the size of it. It doesn't mean we can't do something else with the space that sits adjacent to the railway station, but that is something for this council to discuss, as I don't believe it has up to this point. But from an RV park perspective, it's not big enough to put an RV park on, and that's why we looked at the behind the station in terms of a location.
Now, that question really is part of the debate. It's not a clarity. Yeah. So, we're after questions for clarity, which means you don't understand something in the report you want to sorry, we're on dot point. Recommendation 1. Is there a mover for recommendation 1? Move, Councillor Miller, do you wish to speak to it?
Sorry, Wish, I was doing a 1 and 2. That's recommendation 1 was to move to receive and note the report and receive the outcomes of the community engagement. Yep, so that's what I'm moving.
Yeah, recommendation 1, which has got 2 points.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks for the report. I'm glad it's finally come back. This has generated interest in our community. It's interesting when you break down the responses to the community engagement. So I'm just happy to move that we receive and note this report.
So, Councillor Cummins, you second that? Do you wish to speak to it? Any discussion relating to dot point recommendation 1? No, so I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? Anybody against? No, that's carried unanimously. Recommendation 2. Is there a mover for that? Councillor Miller, do you wish to speak to it?
Yes. Thank you for the clarification of the status of what we'd have to do for that land, because we don't own that land. Is that correct? Is it council-owned land, or it's just what we can use it for that's the issue? And then I'll speak once I know.
Through the Mayor, it's Crown land. So we have care and control. So we need to talk to the Department of Environment and Water about the dedication of that land and its use.
Another question that I have was, this land was identified for long vehicle parking, and I just wonder what that now means. And the charging station is also in that block of land as well. And then I've got another question.
Starting with the charging stations, I'd like to, I'm not able to respond to that question at the moment. We will come back to you on those charging stations into the future. The long vehicle parking has been installed. So within the town itself, on, I think it's South Terrace and Commercial, down the other end. So if I get Sean just quickly, do you want to pop up and just talk to that, please?
Through the chair, it's on one up the top of High Street near the Ken Blake car park up there, and one on South Terrace. However, I don't think the South Terrace one has yet been installed because the signs weren't ordered yet, so they're still to come, that bit in front of the playground.
So just one other question. The Strathalbyn Town Plan refresh, I'm just wondering how that's progressing before I then speak. Thank you.
Through the chair, the Strathalbyn Town Plan is, we're going through the procurement stage at the moment, partly because what we're looking at doing now is integrating a whole heap of work into the development of a housing strategy. So the Strathalbyn Town Plan, a Mount Compass Town Plan, a Langland Creek accommodation review, a local affordable housing plan and a rural areas review would all form part of that. They'd all be separate pieces of work, but they would then inform the housing strategy. So we're trying to work through what that larger piece of work looks like.
Thank you, Worship. Yes, that update's helpful. I think if the one thing that we could do to boost economic activity in Strathalbyn is to resolve somewhere some RV parking and convert visitors to overnight parking. So I would support this because it is to conduct an expression of interest for the development and management of it. So that's what I don't think the other bodies of work that are happening will impact this, because doing this expression of interest will certainly tease out for our community who's interested in doing this and what can actually occur on this site. It is in a really good spot. It would do a lot to activate the businesses in our community. So I really believe the community is interested to hear what an expression of interest would throw up on this space and tease all that out. Thank you.
So do we have a seconder for this? Seconder? Councillor Nicholson? Do you wish to speak to it? So any discussion relating to this? Councillor Maidman.
Yeah, I'll speak against it. I am in favour of an RV park in Strathalbyn, not just in the area behind the railway station. The proposed RV site was originally earmarked for long vehicle parking, such as farmers' trucks, tradies with trailers attached to their vehicles, as well as caravanners. This proposal was subject to extensive community consultation back in 2017 and had widespread community support. Due to the cost blowouts with the Strathalbyn Streetscape project, the long vehicle parking was withdrawn as the budget was expended. Long vehicle parking would still be the preferred option for this site for people passing through town to stop and shop. Camping in that area for up to 72 hours would impact the amenity of the immediate neighbouring residential properties, which have a common boundary. Now, there is approximately 16 properties in that area. Now, let's look at the MySay results. 320 respondents, or 92% of people were in favour of an RV park in Strath. That's not surprising. Of the 320, 174, well over half, were residents outside of the Alexandrina district. Now, they answered the question, would you like to see one or more RV parks constructed within the Alexandrina region? That's of the 320. There were 16 Strath residents who responded, and 71% of those, or 11 people only, were in favour of the Parker Avenue site. Not a particularly good result when only 16 people out of a population of around 8,000 residents of Strathalbyn and nearby areas. So where does this leave the Caravan and Motorhome Club of Australia and Lot 10? For 9 years they've been asking for a RV park. Yes, an RV park in the centre of town would be ideal, but if you look around Australia, there are many RV parks which are 2 kilometres or even further out of townships. And you've got to bear in mind that they have to be self-contained. If you're a member of the Caravan and Motorhome Club of Australia, you only pay a nominal $5 or $10 a night, and they manage that. So I'm still in favour of progressing a Caravan and Motorhome Club of Australia at Lot 10. It's not onerous for people to park their vans or their motorhomes and trundle into town. So, and if you took a straw poll for those 16 residents that backed onto the proposed RV park, I'm sure they'll say that they not in my backyard, because noise and vehicles coming and going at all hours of the morning, night, and who's going to monitor the fact that it's 72 hours? The other thing is, as Alan mentioned, you have a part to play in this, and you'd need to put a dump point there somewhere, and that would be at a considerable cost to council in terms of connecting to a CWMS. So I'd ask that you just vote this one out, and we still proceed with Lot 10.
So is there any further discussion? Councillor Thornton.
Yeah, I can echo Councillor Maidment's sentiments there. I can see that, yes, it's needed and it is a good location, but I am concerned for the surrounding residents, and I think that area could be used for better things, such as a bunch of units put there for some more housing, especially in that location would be fantastic for an older demographic to be able to access the main street. And you can see that it was 4% no, but when you added the location, it went to 23. So I think it's definitely one we could skip out of this.
Any further discussion? Councillor Freemans.
Thanks, Mayor Parks. Look, I don't really support this one either, but interesting, I must have read a different part of the report, because the Camper Van and Motorhome Club of Australia didn't have a very strong support for Lot 10. When they talked about it, it's out in the sticks, no shuttle bus to the town or nearby shops, so why would you put an RV park out there? But going back to South Terrace, where there's 2 allotments, Lot 20, there's numbers 22 and 24. 24 has got a house at the front, so all of the backyard of 24 and all of 22, I think, is potentially usable as an RV park. And really, I'm going to vote against recommendation 2, but I'd like some further investigations into terms of utilising that South Terrace property for an RV park. And when we do call for expressions of interest, I'd really like the Strathalbyn Caravan Park to show an interest, because to me, with their expertise, they would be ideal managers of a site like that, certainly not council.
So is there any further discussion? Councillor Nicholson.
Thank you very much. I've listened with great interest to the discussion on this motion, particularly from the 3 North Ward elected council members who know the community up there so well. So thank you very much for the information. I think in listening and hearing what we've heard, I don't feel so confident to actually support this motion either, because I'm really conscious of going through an expression of interest process when there doesn't appear potentially to be a lot of support in this chamber from the beginning. We might need to do some more work before we go to an expression of interest process, because we need to be really mindful of council resources and actually, progressing things that have a strong foundation for success. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Councillor Miller, do you have your right of reply?
Thank you, Worship. I'm really appreciative of the feedback that has been given and the speaking against this. Just a couple of things that I would like to address. Nobody uses that land at this point in time. Nobody parks there. It's the access across, people used to coming across the railway line, and that access has been removed. The CMCA and Lot 10, I'm glad that this has come up, because the CMCA have been trying to get on Lot 10 since 2019. They submitted an expression of interest. They've been part of the working group. They are desperate to come to Strathalbyn. They see the potential. They run parks really well. Their footprint across the state is growing. Parker Avenue came out of left field last year for this type of for an RV park. It was never contemplated. Never this, as Councillor Maidment said, this site was for long vehicle parking. Then that report came last year, and it talked about RV parking and long vehicle parking, and it really confused the messaging around it. The CMCA are interested in coming to Strathalbyn. If there is an EOI for Parker Avenue, they will submit an EOI, and that's my understanding, because that is closer in the middle of town, but it's smaller than Lot 10. Either way, they want to come to Strathalbyn. They've been trying so hard to get into Strathalbyn. So I think this is a perfect way to conduct an expression of interest for the development and management of an RV park at Parker Avenue. I would like to see an RV park at Lot 10, but it's who operates it and what form it takes that is the question here. So Parker Avenue now is the site that we're talking about. And I just think we owe it to our community to run this expression of interest process. 16 people responded. There's been a lot of commentary around this in Strathalbyn. People want an RV park in Strathalbyn. And I hope that you'll support it to at least run this process and tease out who's interested in operating, who's interested in coming. And then if the site fails, we've actually done a little step in the process to progressing the staging approach to Lot 10 and that design work that's going on out there, and we'll have another piece of information to fill in that picture. So I really hope this gets supported, because there's been a lot of effort and there's a lot of interest, and we can support our business community either way, wherever something goes. So if Parker Avenue's where that came from late last year, I think we deserve to run this process, and let's keep going. We do this and then we stop. And so I just think we need to run the process and see who's actually interested and where they'd like to be. Thank you.
So that ends the discussion. So we're talking recommendation 2. So I'll put that to you. All those in favour? Against? That is lost. We go to recommendation 3, which is the Mount Compass one. Councillor Coombs, do you wish to move that and speak to it?
Look, I would, and this has been a work in progress for quite a number of years. The shopkeepers are very much in favour of this. The location is right in the shopping precinct. We've got council's recreation park, well not recreation, sorry, the wetlands next door. There's shelters there. The views of the hills from that location are absolutely perfect. So I'd certainly recommend this one. I have, and I'll be honest, I've had discussions with the owner of the caravan park on Woodcone Road. He has some concerns, obviously, from a business point of view, but I did talk to him in terms of he might want to put an expression of interest in and discuss with council the best way that it can happen so that it doesn't disadvantage him. But looking at I drive past there probably on a daily basis, there are always RV vans either in the main car park or parked on the undeveloped land and utilising the gazebo there. I think this would be a great thing to have there. I'd like to see some RV-friendly town signages, so that that's part of the thing as well. And the only issue I would have is that council's got a magnificent toilet block there, and I'd hate for RV parkers to be taking their canisters and emptying into toilets, so it would need to have a dump point. I think that's probably an essential part of it. But if all that happens, it doesn't need to use all of the land. The land extends all the way from Nankila Road, which is the current car park, all the way to the back of the other shopping precinct, and it's quite a bit of land. It's not all needed, and I would certainly encourage that we subdivide that land and probably sell it, and there'll be some money coming back into council. I think some of the shops may have an interest in developing further a shopping precinct. I can't see any use for that land from a council perspective. There's still some vacant land across the other side. If we ever looked at something like a park and ride, there's land available for that. So adequate supply of land to accommodate all of the requirements in that area. But I think RV park is something that is very, very positive for the town. So I'd encourage everyone to support it. Thank you.
So do we have a seconder for this one? Councillor Scott, and you wish to speak to it?
I think it's been, I need to say I think it's been pretty well covered by Councillor Kermans. I think it can only be an advantage for the town. The location is, to me, is ideal, so I hope everybody supports it. Thank you.
So is there any discussion? Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Worship. I support this too, because I think if we can have any RV parks anywhere in our district, it's a wonderful stimulus for our economy. The only observation I make here is that there was 100% support, but that was 2 respondents. So I'm not sure how much, what we put in that consultation. So I'm discounting that, and I'm supporting this because I think, if you can get people to stay for a while, it's good for the whole region, wherever they are. So yes, thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Do you wish to override Violet?
I'll just respond to that. The 2 that did were probably shop owners, because that takes a big advantage. But over the last 10 years, there's been community support for something like that, and they certainly, well, it appears they didn't put any responses to the survey.
So that ends the discussion on recommendation 3. So I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. So we go to recommendation 4. Move Councillor Livingston. Do you wish to speak to it?
Yes, just briefly. I think the report speaks for itself, and I just wanted to thank administration for the great detail in relation to the importance of the EPBC and Ramsdale wetlands.
Do a seconder, Councillor Scott.
If I may, but I'd also like to add, with the consent of the mover, a slight variation to that, or an addition, in that where it says due to its unsuitability, that council will continue to investigate opportunities for an RV park in Goolwa in the future. Because I think we still be good to have one in the town, but it's a matter of finding the location. I don't want the ball to be dropped and then nothing happen. I think it's an opportunity for us to still continue if that's all right, if the mover is happy for that to be included.
Are you happy with that, Councillor Livingston?
Yes, it's just subject to minor tweaking and that council rather than a comma. And after in the future at other locations. I'm happy with that.
So everybody okay with that addition? Yep. So is there any further discussion? Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Worship. I'm glad that Councillor Scott proposed that because, and this is maybe being a little bit of a devil's advocate, but you know, you look at the Customs House site and where it's located and the vacant land that is, I think it's Porter Street, where there's currently nothing happening and it's just gravel. You know, I'm not talking about touching Customs House, but I'm talking about an interim opportunity to let RVs park there and stay overnight or for 48 hours. I believe there was a caravan on there at one point when I went and looked at the land. But I'm in all seriousness, I'm thinking if you want to activate the town centre of Goolwa, you know, why couldn't you? And activate the wharf and people could access the tourism opportunities that are there and maybe allow, as a trial, some RV parking on that vacant land until something is decided with that precinct. So I think there is an opportunity to maybe consider that in all seriousness.
Is there any further discussion? No. Councillor Livingston, do you wish to write a report? So I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. And recommendation 5. Is there a mover for that? Councillor Scott, do you wish to speak to that?
Just to say that it would be getting that endorsement. It attracts people automatically, and that will help Langhorns Creek in that. That's all. Thank you.
So is there a seconder for that? Councillor Maidman, do you wish to speak to it?
Just briefly, Potts Reserve at Langhorne Creek is, you drive past there any day of the week or weekend, and there are many camper vans and motorhomes there. So once you put up an RV-friendly town, it gets out into all the publications around Australia for campground books and all sorts of things. So that would be a boost for the Langhorne Creek Township.
So is there any further discussion? Of course, Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Worship. Yes, I just hope there's been some consultation with the community. There's no doubt that Langhorne Creek is a RV-friendly town, and the Potts Reserve is certainly well utilised. I just hope that the arrangement for the fees that are there doesn't change, because that funds so many projects in the local community, and it'll be wonderful. It would be, you know, I just think it will only enhance what's going on in Langhorne Creek, but I just hope there's consultation with the community and that the arrangement for the fees for overnight stay is not changed, and that stays with the community, and they decide where it's spent.
Is there any further discussion? Councillor Scott, do you wish to write a reply? Good. I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. Do you think we need a comfort stop? I think I do. So we'll resume at 10 minutes to 8. So 9.11 is the delegations update for December 2024 and to February 2025. Tash, is there anything that needs changing on that? No. Are there any questions for clarity on that report? If not, do we have somebody to move that? Councillor Livingston, do you wish to speak to it? Is there a seconder? Councillor Coomans? Any discussion? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. 9.12 is the council advisory governance arrangements. That is from Tash. Is any updates on that? No, no changes. Any questions for clarity? For clarity? No, so you wish to move? Yep.
I was just going to ask if you would consider moving them as separate recommendations.
Do we have to?
Please?
Yeah, we can, if everybody's in favour of that. Everybody in favour of moving them separately? Okay, so we'll do, just a minute. So I'll receive and note the contents of the report. Is there a mover for that? Councillor Livingston. Seconder, Councillor Kermans. Any discussion regarding receiving and noting the report? Councillor Miller.
Question. Are all council members considered ex officio members of advisory groups or just observers? And how will staggering of the terms of community members be managed?
Oh, lovely. Thank you. Through you, thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for the query. So, council members are not ex officio members of advisory groups, although the Mayor is an ex officio member of any advisory group in which he is named to be so. So council members attend meetings as a member of the gallery, essentially. And in terms of the staggering of community member terms, what we'd be looking to do is to have one expression of interest just after an election process and then one mid-term, and there's an arrangement that if a member, community member resigns prematurely, that they may be able to use the nominees from the previous expression of interest. Thank you.
Any discussion regarding dot point 1? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Anybody against? It's carried unanimously. So we go to dot point 2. Is there a mover for that? Councillor Livingston.
Yes, I would like to move a different recommendation which I have sent through. Thank you. So as you'll see, it's not making a decision on dissolving the Section 41 committee at this point in time. I think with the internal discussions that have been happening between SEEK members, which Councillor Nicholson and I have been privy to as the council representatives, I'm not comfortable with making a decision to dissolve at this point in time until we have the SEEK members on board. They have some fundamental concerns with the framework and how it is going to work, and I don't see any harm in pausing on that until we can have further discussions at a committee meeting and until Councillor Nicholson and I can have those discussions with the council members, SEEK members, sorry.
So do we...
Thank you. I think that before this elected council can have real confidence in making a decision on the future of the SEEK, it would be beneficial for the SEEK to have the opportunity to, I suppose, really consider a recommendation for the council, consider that amongst themselves, and then provide a recommendation to the council. And I urge the chamber. Sorry, I urge the chamber to support this motion and give those dedicated members of our community who commit their time and energy and skills and knowledge to the SEEK to have an opportunity to present that. Thank you.
Is there any discussion? Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Worship. I was really comfortable with the original as printed recommendation, so I won't be supporting this, and I'm foreshadowing that if this is lost, I'll move what was printed. I don't think these groups will still have a very important role to play. I love the idea of simplifying it. I think the answers to my questions earlier in the meeting show what a commitment we have to environmental initiatives. My understanding was these committees were established when we didn't have that administrative presence and direction. So I'm really comfortable with what was being proposed here, and I understood that. I thought that the CEO had been and briefed these two groups. I think this makes them more agile and responsive and gives them more ability without the restrictions of a Section 41 committee. My only concern is I actually don't think there should be any members on these advisory groups, and then I think that would even give them more agility. And so I will be voting against this and going for what was originally proposed. We have a climate change officer, we've got an environment section. You only have to look at the draft budget to see the funding commitment that's being made by this council, rightly or wrongly, and I'm certainly not suggesting it's wrong, I'm just saying we are demonstrating a very strong commitment. I'd like to see the Agriculture Advisory Group represented on this SEEK advisory group, because we know that primary producers have environmental responsibilities in environmental conservation. They're the subject matter experts in agriculture and primary production, and I think they could contribute very well to an advisory group like this. So I'm not supporting it because I don't want them to exist anymore. I just want them to have a new governance model, be agile, be responsive, and be able to co-opt and be responsive to administration in a much more flexible way than Section 41 committees do. So I'll be voting against it. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Councillor Gardner.
Could I please just check? I have been to one of the committee meetings, and I thought that the CEO was there and talking about this whole issue of changing from Section 41 to an advisory committee meeting. So I wasn't mistaken. I thought it was a robust discussion. I don't really understand why you would want to keep it as a Section 41 committee if they've had that discussion and they all seem to be in agreement to it. So I'm confused.
Through the chair, so Councillor Gardner, you're right. When Lachlan and I presented to SEEK, they seemed reasonably comfortable. There were certainly a few questions about the terms of reference and some of that detail, but Lachlan certainly reassured them on a couple of elements. But I think once they see the terms of reference and what the intent is, I think their comfort would continue.
Is there any further discussion? Councillor Scott.
I just want to make an observation, if I may, that probably 6-7 years ago, I was on a Section 41 committee and we were given some very strong advice that we should cease being a Section 41 committee and be an advisory committee. A few more years went by and we were told that if we're giving advice to council, we needed to be a Section 41 committee. And so Section 41 committees were formed. Now we're going through the process saying we don't need to be Section 41 committees. I'm just concerned that we're jumping backwards and forwards. There's a lot of time taken up each time we do this. It has to go through council, and I'm honestly quite intrigued as to why we're chopping and changing, because we've been given good reasons for both things occurring.
Thank you. Just through you, Your Worship, and thank you for the question, Councillor Scott. The advice you did receive before, any group providing direct advice to council should have a range of governance provisions wrapped around them. Unfortunately, what we found is that those governance provisions are quite rigorous, and that some members of our advisory structures are uncomfortable working under those in terms of meeting procedure, in terms of register of interest in relation to declaration of conflict of interest. And so what we were seeking was a way for that, it to be more inclusive and more flexible and agile for members to be able to participate and actually share their knowledge and experience without having to worry about jumping through a bunch of hoops. However, by making that structure more flexible and becoming an advisory group, we do need to then put a separation between the advice coming from the group and coming into the council, and that's why an advisory group is chaired by an executive officer who's a member of staff, and that any recommendations from the advisory group come through the officer's report into the chamber, at which time it will be clear about what the recommendation of the advisory group was, but it's not a recommendation from the advisory council, it's via the executive officer, who is subject to all of the code of conduct and conflict of interest provisions and all of those sorts of things, which is why at a point in time, Section 41 committees were seen to be the appropriate structure for all advice coming to council.
Thank you. So is there any further discussion? Councillor Freemans.
I might have this wrong, but when I look at the resolution up there, it's not about whether it should be a Section 41 or an advisory committee. What I read into that is that the actual committee haven't really been consulted, haven't provided any sort of input in terms of, whether they see themselves as a Section 41 or advisory, or indeed the terms of reference for that committee. All I'm seeing up there is they want to have a discussion and some input into terms of the future of that committee. And I can't see anything wrong with that. I reckon, if you have any committee, it's our responsibility to, if you're going to make some changes, is to actually consult with them, ask them about it. They might have some really good input into all of that. That's what I'm seeing up on the screen. I'm not seeing about the benefits of one or the other. To me, that's got nothing to do with this. It will, but it doesn't.
So is there any further discussion? So Councillor Nichols, Livingston, you obviously have your right of reply.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Parks. I see no reason why we can't pause on this decision until the concerns of the SEEK members have been resolved. In particular, from the perspective of, say, the group, there's always been the concern of transparency and actually taking the weight of the advice that has come from SEEK seriously, I guess. So I really do urge you to support my motion on the screen. I think we ought to discuss and workshop the terms of reference with SEEK and actually get an outcome that we are all on board with, given that the members of SEEK are the ones that are showing up to provide council with assistance. So going against, I guess, and ignoring their concerns, I just think would be quite consequential for the future for that group.
So that ends the discussion. So I'll put the new dot point 2 to you. All those in favour? That's carried. So, against? Against? No, it's carried. So we move on to dot point 3. Is there a mover for dot point 3? Councillor Scott, do you wish to speak to it? No. Okay. Is there a seconder? Councillor Miller, do you wish to speak to it?
I just want to repeat everything that I said before. I don't think in any way reduces the importance or diminishes the respect or expertise or value of what the Heritage Advisory Committee has contributed. I think we do it exceptionally well in this council, thanks to this committee, and I hope that it gets supported because it does give them agility, and I think it's been explained very well why we would take this approach, and I hope that this one gets supported because there is no disadvantage. It actually makes them more efficient. And if we are wanting to make our administration more efficient, I think this is an exceptionally positive and contemporary way to go about conducting our business as a council.
So is there any further discussion? Councillor Scott, do you wish to speak to it? Right a reply? No, so I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. (9.13) is the Policy and Procedure Review, Information Management Policy, Privacy Policy and Privacy Procedure. That's from Leanne Graham, but Tash, does that come under your area? Any change? Andrew, anything? No. No. So are there any questions for clarification of this report? Councillor Miller.
Your Worship, I just wondered if the Code of Conduct references throughout of this should be behavioural standards. I don't think we have Code of Conduct anymore. And will we have some training on how we're meant to be capturing our records and providing them to administration?
Your Worship, if there is, if there are references to the Code of Conduct as it's relating to elected members, yes, we will update that to behavioural standards. Apologies if that's the case. Code of Conduct still applies to staff members, and I believe this policy does apply. These suite of policies apply to both equally. In relation to training, yes, there will need to be some more communication, I think, with both elected members and with staff in relation to the implementation of these policies.
So no other further questions? We have a recommendation there before you. Is there a mover for that? Councillor Scott, would you wish to speak to it? No. Is there a seconder? Councillor Maidman? Do you wish to speak to it? It's any discussion? Not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. 9.14 is the draft public fleet management policy. Alan, is there any updates or changes to that report? No. Are there any questions for clarity? If not, do we have a mover for that recommendation? Councillor Scott. We could sit here all night waiting for a mover. Do you wish to speak to it?
Just briefly, we used to have a fleet management committee, I believe, or before I came into council. About the time I came in, it was abandoned, and or council elected member involvement was abandoned, and it's a major part of our expenditure.
Can I just clarify that to save you talking for a long time about it? It was the Plant and Equipment Committee, and the Plant and Equipment Committee is the next level down the track from this report. Now, this is the high level. The next level down is the Plant and Equipment, which talks about the types of vehicles and where they come from. But yeah, so just wanted to be on know what we're talking about, that's all. So is there a seconder for it? Councillor Nicholson, did you wish to speak to it? Is there any discussion? No? I mean, I think I haven't brought this up with Andrew, but in the past I've brought up many times. I would love to have the Plant and Equipment Committee reinstated, so that because it really gave us a chance. We didn't make the Plant and Equipment Committee never made a decision about what we bought or what we didn't buy. It purely supported the recommendation of administration. But at least when report came to council from the committee, people would understand why we bought certain vehicles. There was a reason for buying them, because there was good resale value, or because they were the perfect vehicle for the job, or whatever. It was information that we weren't making decisions on purchasing, but it was good to know. But anyway, we haven't had it for a long time. But so anyway, I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. 9.15 is the Chief Executive Officer's report. Andrew, is there anything you wish to add or update on that? No, nothing. No. Any questions for clarity? If not, do we have a mover that we receive the Chief Executive Officer's report? Councillor Scott. Is there a seconder, Councillor Livingston? Are there any questions of Andrew for his report? Councillor Scott.
I'm just interested in how your meeting with the Strathalbyn Strikers Soccer Club went to discuss, when discussing their facility requirements, because that is a fairly big subject.
Through the chair, so the Mayor and I attended that meeting, but they were very upbeat about the prospect of council assisting with some design and.
Sorry, Andrew, different club. This was the Strath. We went to the Port Elliot one.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. So which one? This is the Strathalbyn Strikers Club to discuss their facility requirements.
Sorry about that. So many meetings. But yeah, through the chair, they really wanted to express the restrictions that have been posed upon them in relation to the current grounds, that they don't have the flexibility to grow or expand with the demand that they have around soccer. So they are extremely keen to see an opportunity at Lot 10 at some point in time.
Thank you.
Are there any further discussions? Councillor Nicholson.
Thank you. I'm curious about the discussion with the resident concerning the native grassland restoration project at Ratalang. I've had a number of discussions with community members myself, and they've all ended very positively after having the opportunity to share more information, and I just wondered if that meeting had ended positively.
In terms of Ratalang, did you say?
Discussion with resident concerning the native grassland restoration project on 24th of April.
So I guess there was some local concern in relation to the land that was sprayed out and the dry conditions and the dusty conditions that exist on that site. So there certainly has been some concerns. We've spoken at length about what the plan is from the committee to actually progress and sow that land, and particularly with the native grasses and a cover crop to sort of protect it as well. So the person raising concern seems to have some level of comfort at the moment, particularly with the plan that's recently been, I guess, released through the committee. Yep, and also as part of this agenda as well.
Do we have any further questions? Councillor Miller.
I'm just interested in the discussions with the Goolwa Netball Club, what they may have been around.
Through the chair, so the discussion with the Goolwa Netball Club was around, their existing facilities, access to the disability change rooms to the back of the main building, where it's difficult for people to know where to go because of a lack of signage. General conversations about what they're doing as a netball club themselves, particularly in the shed that sits alongside the courts and how they operate out of there. There was discussions around the lighting that was donated, I think, to Mount Compass and whether Mount Compass actually wants the lighting or not. So that was generally the discussion.
Any further questions of Andrew? If not, I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. 9.16 is the council resolution register. Andrew, is there anything to update on that? No. Changes? Are there any questions for clarity? So we have a recommendation there. Do we have a mover for that? Councillor Maidment. Do you wish to speak to it?
Just a question on the fact that the Mount Compass Netball Club was successful in getting grant funding, so I just wanted to know how this will impact our budget, given that do they need $50,000 that we've already promised them?
Through the Chair, this is about the $50,000 from Council for this financial year. So I have a note in my diary for this week to reach out to, I think it's Olivia, who is the President there, and just to see whether they've had any success or not with the Office of Rec and Sport. So that's on my to-do list this week.
So do we have a seconder? Livingston, you wish to speak to it? No. Is there any discussion? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. So, okay. All right. Item 10 is committee reports. 10.1 is the report from the Audit and Risk Committee, third quarter budget review. That's from Andrew Alderson, Andrew's not here, but Andrew will give us an update there. Any information there?
Yeah, through the Chair, just an update in terms of recommendation 2. We had a typo in terms of the deficit number, and you'll see that actually now reflects what the committee resolved at its previous meeting on the 28th of April.
So do we have any questions for clarity regarding that report? If not, we're looking for a mover for that. Councillor Markman.
Thank you, Worship. I just the additional rebates payable against swims connection fees totalling $228,000. I understand that's going to be an Audit and Risk Committee report. Is that correct? I think the committee queried that, and so I just wondered if that is actually going to be a further information about that going back to the Audit and Risk Committee.
Sorry, Councillor Miller, could you repeat that for me, please?
So this is in the third quarter budget review. There was reference to additional rebates payable against associated increased swims connection fees revenues been provided for, totalling 228. As it's anticipated, these will be required to be paid out before the end of this financial year. So I seem to recall observing an Audit and Risk Committee meeting where they queried, were looking for some further information on that issue. I'm happy to ask that question out of session.
I can't recall, so I might just take that one on notice.
Is there any further discussion? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. 10.2 is a report from the Audit and Risk Committee quarterly performance report. Tash, is there anything to change on that? Are there any questions for clarity relating to that report? And there's the recommendation that we receive and note the content of the report. Is there a mover for that? Councillor Creamans. Seconded, Councillor Maidment. Any discussion? Can you go ahead?
Okay, it's in this particular report, the extension of the Strath pool season in the 24-25 budget, $30,000 was set aside for that, and I did note that only around $21,000 to $22,000 was expended. So have we adjusted the amount set aside for 25-26 to reflect that amount, $21,000 to $22,000?
Through the Mayor, no, I don't believe we have, because that was a request from the group at the Strath pool, and they haven't put forward a request this year to administration. I did encourage them to reach out to their council members to put it forward as part of the budget process, but we haven't heard anything.
So is there any further discussion? Councillor Miller.
I just have a couple of questions, and I was going to ask about the Strath Pool extension. When will we see the outcomes of that trial? I think that's why nothing's come forward, because we don't know the numbers and stats. How do we get that?
Through the Mayor, I'll chase that up with the YMCA to see where the outcomes of that trial are at.
And I had another question about the 80,000 from public-private partnerships to progress strategic objectives. 58,000's been expended and there's 21,800 left, and I was just interested what that had been, find out a little bit more about that, and I'm happy to have that responded to out of session. And I just wanted to comment that the Wellington Road through Highland Valley is looking fabulous. That's making such a difference through there. It was long overdue. And I really love this report, and it's a really important tool in our path to financial sustainability and performance reporting, and I acknowledge that it's going to only get better and better, but I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. 10.3 is the report from the Audit and Risk Committee, various financial policies. Andrew's not here, but Andrew, nothing there. Are there any questions of clarity on that report? If not, do we have a mover for the recommendation? Move, Councillor Maidment. And you wish to speak to it? Is there a seconder? Councillor Livingston. Do you wish to speak to it? Is there any discussion? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. (10.4) is a report from the Ratalang, Basham Beach and Horseshoe Bay Advisory Committee. It's a works budget for 2025-26. Are there any changes to that report or updates? No. Are there any questions for clarity relating to that report? Councillor Miller.
My only question is, should we be considering 10.5 before we do 10.4? Because I think we're talking about the works budget. So I just want with the order of considering them. It's not a deal breaker, but I'm just curious about the order.
Through the Mayor, these are two separate conversations. So the works program is its own program and project. Anything that's being reported after that stands alone from this.
So is there any other questions for clarity? If not, I'm looking for a mover for the recommendation. Move, Councillor Scott. And do you wish to speak to it?
No, I think it's all pretty self-explanatory. Thank you.
There we go, a seconder. Councillor Nicholson, and do you wish to speak to it? So is there any discussion? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Councillor Scott, can you turn your microphone?
Oh, sorry.
10.5 is a report from the Ratalang, Basham Beach and Horseshoe Bay Advisory Committee, the Native Grasslands Restoration Project Plan. Alan, is there any changes to that report? No. Are there any questions for clarity on that report? If not, do we have a mover for the recommendation? Move, Councillor Nicholson. And you wish to speak to it?
This project has had a lot of interest in the community, particularly from the residents who live close by. It has been actually years in the making now. It was certainly being discussed when I first was elected to council and to the committee. So it's great to see that it has gotten to this point, and I'm really excited to see the project progress. Thank you.
So do we have a seconder? Councillor Scott, and do you wish to speak to it?
And to the extent that, yes, we've been working on it for a long time, and we're looking forward to seeing it come into fruition. As a child, I was always pointed out to me that native pasture was getting scarcer and scarcer, and see it, a whole area being reinstated with native grasses and everything is I think a great step forward. So happy to support it.
So is there any discussion? Councillor Miller.
I just have some questions, Your Worship. How much dirt is being moved around? When will this work occur regarding the fence going completely around the site, as I understand it? And how high is the berm? Because the DA was submitted, I understand it, and I'm not sure if it's a 30 centimetre berm or a 3 metre berm. There's some confusion around this, so I'm just interested in a little bit more detail.
Through the Mayor, thank you for your questions. To take the last one first, the plan does detail the height of the berm. The original planning application was put in off the back of initial information that was provided in order that we could ensure that we could progress the work in good time. As the plan and the work itself has been further worked on, we've received that further information that's come through that plan showing the actual design of the berm. In terms of the earth being moved, I was told the volume of it, and it's gone out of my head. I should have written it down, but it is enough still to trigger the need for the development application. And in terms of the fencing, these pieces of work are all year one pieces of work in order to secure the site to the best of our abilities around vermin and weed movement. So they would be done in that first year, so 25, 26.
So is there any further discussion? I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? It's carried. 10.6 is a report from the Ratalang, Basham Beach and Horseshoe Bay Advisory Committee, dune erosion mitigation at Sandy Bay. Alan, is there anything you wish to add to that report? Any updates? Is there any questions of clarity on that report? If not, do we have somebody to move the recommendation? Move, Councillor Scott, you wish to speak to it?
Yes, I think those that were at the visitation day and heard from his name escaped me at the moment, but he was advising us that the amount of erosion was quite substantial. There was a rock there that he said was sitting on the bank a few years ago, and now it's probably 2 metres out into the shore where the tide comes in. So this is, I think, pretty important work, and it will be very interesting to see what the Magrin group can come up with as far as mitigating further damage. But it was quite unusual, quite unrealistic that by comparison with other erosion along the coast, it was quite pronounced.
So do we have a seconder for this? Councillor Nicholson? Do you wish to speak to it? So is there any further discussion? No, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? 10.7 is a report from the Ratalang, Basham Beach and Horseshoe Bay Advisory Committee, the Crockery Creek Wetland Design and Peer Review. Alan, is there any updates on that report? No. Are there any questions for clarity on that? We have a recommendation there. Do you have a mover for that? Move, Councillor Miller. You wish to speak to it? Do we have a seconder? Councillor Nicholson? to speak to it? No. Any discussion? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. Pardon me. 11 is council member reports. 11 was one of the members' report. Is the recommendation that Is there any questions for clarification? So the recommendation of the report that we received, is there a report that? Councillor Maitland. Second that. Councillor Livingston. Any questions or discussion relating to that report? Councillor Scott.
Quick question in relation to your meeting with the Port Adelaide Soccer Club representatives. Have we got any good news there at all?
So Andrew and I met with them on site, and we just had an inspection of the facilities, and Andrew got a better understanding of how bad they were, and looked at just discussed their needs into the future and what they were doing and what their plans were, so that we could help them to try and progress, trying to get support and funding wherever possible. So that was the discussion we had, and yeah.
Thank you.
So is there any other questions? No? So I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. 11.2 is council member activity reports. There are no written ones. Are there any verbal reports? Councillor Livingston.
Thank you, Mayor Parks. I just wanted to, I guess, share with members in relation to the Wooden Boat Festival. I'm sure you all saw Mayor Parks' media release, and just wanted to take the opportunity to congratulate the committee and all the volunteers and our festival manager for all their hard work. We had 18,000 attend, and to my understanding was one of the biggest festivals we've had before, so I just wanted to take that opportunity.
Any further? Scott?
I'd like to support what Councillor Livington has said. It was just that view back from the Oscar W and the incredible number of boats there. It's 10 out of 10 to all concerned. But what I do wish to speak about briefly is on Anzac Day, I went out to Hope Forest, which is right at the end of West Ward, and they have been a little group working very diligently, and Councillor Coomans was there as well. They have worked very diligently over the time, just a very small group, as so often is the case, very limited amount of money, but they have developed their own war memorial there, in amongst the trees. Very simple, but very well done. All the names of people from the Hope Forest area that have been away over the years, over the various conflicts, but just amazing what that little group have done, and it's their first Anzac service, and they held it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it was easy to get there, and I just commend them for what they've done. It was tremendous stone and bronze plaque and everything, and even a member of the from the Defence Force was there as well, a lieutenant colonel. So it gave it added to the atmosphere. But no, a little group punching way above their weight. Thank you.
Are there any further? Maxim Miller.
Just two things, Your Worship. I just want to congratulate the Strath Business Group. They ran a very, very successful inaugural event for new and existing residents on the 9th of May. On the Friday night, they had 40 exhibitors and a couple hundred people came through. It was to welcome new and existing residents, and I want to acknowledge the Strath Football Club and the Strath Club for supporting that, and the group of small group of people who organised that and pulled that together. It was an incredible testament to what's going on in Strathalbyn. And also the Heavy Horseshoe Day was held at the with the playground. It was absolutely amazing, and Strath went over the weekend. This weekend was just a buzz. So I just wanted to take my hat off to whoever pulled that together too.
And any further, Councillor Nicholson?
Thank you. I'd also like to recognise the dedication at Middleton of the Encounter Coast Surf Reserve. There was a wonderful ceremony held earlier in May, and it recognised the surfing history, the significance of the surfing history and culture for our region. And it's a real credit to the dedicated locals who have worked for a long time on this project. So it's a great success, and it had the support and collaboration of Council and a number of other businesses and locals. So it was a really wonderful event and a great thing. Thank you.
Any more? No? I just back this before we go. The Wooden Boat Festival. I was think if you realise we had 2 senators, our federal member, the deputy premier, and the governor, all there, and they had a ball, and they really enjoyed it. So I think we should be very proud of what we achieved, what we got there, and that was great. So there's a recommendation that those reports be received to remove that. I've put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. Friends, we need to move into confidential items.
South Coast Television, your community, your voice.